I want to redefine Darwinian theory. It is not the survival of the fittest. It is the extension of generosity of surplus to other members in the ecological community to build biodiversity. So it's not the individual that survives, it's the community that cooperates that survives.
As you probably know by now, our videos tend to focus on the philosophical aspect of the paradigm shift. And why meta-philosophical, would you ask? Because everything in the universe is energy and interconnected, and we are trying to decipher the message. We are going to tackle the regenerative movement and see why it has to become, well, no, it must become unstoppable, and what you can do to help.
As a lawyer, my job is to represent the earth as my client. It separates us ever more and more and more. Basically putting a price tag on everything, commoditizing the planet and everything in it. So for our CEO and directors, it is actually the law to maximise their profits for their shareholders. That creates an enormous disconnect.
We definitely praise Polly Higgins for accusing the commodification of life as the very reason of our disconnect from nature, instilling social distrust and exploitation at every level. But the tentacles of our monetary system cannot be overcome unless we begin to detach ourselves from that very anti-life structure completely. For the system to work as intended, the latter needs to be biased by education. This criteria is a requisite for a top-down model to institutionalize meritocracy because truth actually never sells, and which is why we are dealing with so many layers of social distortions that only benefit a top 1%. Corporations are mere feudal entities implementing censorships whenever they see fit. This is a battle for world peace and abundance, but before winning over, we will have to unlearn much of what we think we know. Our video 65% Ready for a Money-Free Society is an eye-opener and documents the ongoing awakening. But there is a way to do this better. Although peaceful protest can be useful, starting food forests wherever possible is perhaps even more important, because we are headed for a global disruption of the food supply, and helping each other during this transition is paramount. Well, what we mean here is that the transition will be integrated in the new model.
I think we have an innate, instinctual, and necessary urge to be part of something larger than ourselves. Humans are social creatures. Likewise, we have a foundational need to be part of a larger community. And capitalism has pretty much destroyed all of our communities. That's one of the things it does. But we still have a toxic mimic of something is something that takes the form and perverts the content. So, but since capitalism has destroyed our communities, that loyalty has been taken away from the real communities that people have had throughout human existence and throughout. On every level, we've been co-opted into identifying with this government as opposed to,
like, it's a part of us, like it's an extension of us. I mean, right?
Exactly.
We share the same observation as Derek Jensen. Society still struggles with the idea of centralization, since the need for inclusion is what prompts following the ruling ideology. Expecting politics to determine freedom is a paradox because power only exists if giving our consent away. The higher self confidence each individual has, the less coercive society becomes. Peace is not the result of law enforcement, but a knowledge-based self-control. It is what slows down the regenerative movement. The real green revolution is about freeing ourselves from a ruling ideology that wants us to depend on exploitation. Stepping away from the system requires, therefore, to decentralize neighborhoods ourselves. Yes, you read well. That very responsibility is ours now. The change must come from the bottom up, but instead of challenging the existing structure with little to no results, our approach must change if we really want to transform the world. Let's face it, our materialist premise has run its course. We are on the edge of a cliff and shifting our focus on a new dawn motivated by cooperation and world peace. In order to restore biodiversity, consuming less and growing food forests, sharing and recycling ever more have to become our new mantra.
On another level, one of the things that this society has done systematically is, as I said earlier, insert itself between us and the natural world. And so if you ask somebody where their food comes from and where their water comes from, they will say from the grocery store and from the tap. And what that means is that you are dependent for your very life on the system that's killing the planet. The system has inserted itself between us and the ability to live without it, which is
World stock exchanges have only taught us what is wrong with infinite growth and paying for the right to live, taking more out than what we put in. We do not need to look any further. Owning nature does not make any sense whatsoever. It is only nonsensical, but puts the entire ecosystem at risk. It is collective suicide.
We have been living in the home since 2009. So originally it was Bryce and I living here when we built it, and then 6 years ago we had our first daughter, and then 3.5 years ago we had a second. So it's our family of 4. Primarily, but our lifestyle is geared towards staying in place and building value in this place. What we're trying to do is to produce as much of our needs as possible on the property, and then when we need to purchase outside of the property, we look for local and artisanal, and when we can't find that, then we move into the normal commercial realm.
I think food production is one of the most important aspects of our lifestyle. Our permaculture lifestyle, it's definitely based around sustainability, but having a food forest, having chinampas, having these systems which produce magnificent abundance, I think that is where the true resiliency of the system comes from. I firmly believe that food forests are going to be the salvation of mankind. They're going to remedy many of the problems that are going on in agriculture these days.
The best we can estimate is that it cost less than $1,000 to do the entire building, including all the additions. The original building cost us about $400, and then from there, all we've purchased is new lumber for the floors and the roof and nails. And that obviously is substantially less than a conventional build, but the windows and the roofing and things that we could not harvest from the wild have all been from reclaimed, recycled things, mostly from buildings that we helped.
We have discovered that a sustainable lifestyle is absolutely 100% possible for a human being. A free lifestyle based on the earth is not this crazy fantasy. It's a very real thing. The earth is so abundant. All you have to do is care for her soil and put seeds in it, and you shall be rewarded. So I'm very hopeful. I'm very optimistic that we've come to this era of technology and sharing information and enlightenment, that we can actually start, expressing these ideas. There's more and more people catching on to the permaculture idea every day, more and more urban gardens and guerrilla gardens and gangster gardeners, like so many people just becoming tenders of the earth and sharing that food with their neighborhoods. This is what's actually going to bring the poverty reduction and the actual systems that will make people live in abundance. It's not going to come trickling down from the government. We've waited for that for years, but we can put the seeds in the ground and we can make it happen now.
Bryce and Misty, who we really admire, were very lucky to be part of an early trend. And if you have your parcel secured today, it is still not too late to start up. But for many, the clock is ticking because there is little time left to change one's life overnight. The crisis coming our way is long overdue, and this means that we have to hurry up to grow food now and begin to team up with our neighbors, turn pesticide-free lawns into vegetable gardens and food forests. Lawns will have to become things of the past. A really free society respects nature. In other words, always prioritize life. It is very important that we get this right because bad always happens faster than good. And we have broken the law too many times to reverse our position to goods fast enough, and therefore we have to confront a major disruption. It is our golden opportunity though, a unique occasion to end the world irrationality. The model of nature is which we must apply to our very lives as well. No energy is wasted in nature. Nature recycles everything. At our level, it does mean that the sum of humans' emotions have to be continually redirected towards any form of social betterment. The truth is that the slightest bit of knowledge that isn't shared morphs into oppression because natural law organize life in a way so that no one can claim supremacy over anything. That is how the universe communicates with us at all times, while ensuring that compassion and empathy remain immutable parameters. In a nutshell, we now have the irrefutable evidence that metaphysics and science can collaborate easily once acknowledging that very reality.
So that the powers that be are oppressive and unjust is just how it is. And it doesn't matter in what guise. And this is not, by the way, an anti-communist rant. I may be one of the only two Marxists I know who came out of Eastern Europe. And the reason I say that is when they beat you over the head in the name of a certain system, you're not going to be going for that system very much. And what I've actually come to understand that it's really important for people to search for the truth themselves and not to automatically identify with any particular system. Because as soon as you start to identify, as soon as you try to find the answer outside yourself, you may surrender your critical faculties. In this society, what we see is a society that literally makes people sick.
Thank you so much for watching and helping us spread the word far and wide.